to say those strong winds fanning the flames of the bushfires across that southwestern corner of Australia will ease over the next couple of days. You can see we still have a fair amount of cloud, a little bit of cloud just to the south of Perth. It's not going to help as far as the fires are concerned, but as I said, at least the winds will ease down. Plenty of cloud further north. There are still some very heavy downpours to come here. Heavy downpours too just around southern parts of Queensland, just around Brisbane, northern areas of New South Wales. For the southeastern corner, here it is set fair. It generally stays dry, and if anything, our large area of high pressure through the Bight will edge its way a little further eastwards. In the process, that's when we're going to see those winds just easing for the Perth area over the next day or so. Not so as we push up towards the northwest. Heavy downpours will persist here, and some heavy rain to come too into New Zealand. We've got some rain stretching out of Australia just around the Gold Coast, pushing down into New Zealand. That will gradually make its way further northwards as we go on through Wednesday. So brighter skies coming back in behind. Wellington getting up to 18 degrees Celsius. Not too bad across Southeast Asia, but those southern areas very close to Australia, I'm afraid it does stay pretty disturbed with further spells of very heavy rain to come here. Further north into China, it is largely fine and dry, but it's sunshine and showers again for the Philippines.
Home to a diversity of rare species, Latvia's pristine woodlands are a place of magic. But with a strained economy and an eager market, forests are rapidly perishing, and with them their inhabitants. People and Power investigates how 60% of Latvia's timber ends up on UK shelves with a questionable seal of approval. Latvia's pulp fiction, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Hello again, recapping our top stories, and the man credited with inspiring the January 25th anti-Mubarak protests in Egypt's been freed, while Ghanem created a Facebook group denouncing police violence in the country. He was captured on January the 28th at Cairo's Tahrir, or Liberation Square, the heart of the protest movement. And protesters in Egypt are calling for more mass rallies on Tuesday as they press for the resignation of President Hosni Mubarak. The government's tried to appease demonstrators by offering a public sector pay rise. Returning to Mohammed Abdelkader live in New York. We were talking before we lost the signal about the extent of support from the US administration for Mubarak. Do you still detect that?
Well, here's the thing. I think it's important to clarify that there's a very fine line that I think the administration has been walking, and I think they've done a good job of it. On one hand, there's certain things that are absolutely deplorable that I think the administration has been very forceful about. That's the detention of journalists, attacks on civilians, attacks on human rights activists. These things are deplorable, and I think the administration has been particularly good at showing its opposition to these particular things. Now, I think the fine line comes in as in asking for a sitting president of another country to step down. And I think that's a very fine line, because on one hand, you know, if you're on the Egyptian streets, on one hand they want the international community to condemn the violence and some of the atrocities that have been brought about by the Mubarak regime. But on the other hand, they also don't want American intervention in a sovereign country's leadership decisions.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Mohammed Abdelkader, Associate Director of Development at Georgetown University and also activist. Southern Sudan's waking up to the prospect of becoming the world's newest nation. Official results confirmed almost 99% of voters were in favor of going it alone. Independence comes into effect in July, and as Harry Mutasa reports, concerns remain about the future.
Euphoria as people get confirmation that Southern Sudan will become the world's newest nation. Many have waited years for independence. As expected, the number of those who voted for secession was overwhelming.
Those who voted for secession, 98.83% of the total valid votes.
President Omar al-Bashir accepted the final results, allaying fears of some he would not let the South go peacefully.
We accept the results and we will not question them. Absolutely. We respect the Southerners' rights to choose what they want.
And people here seem confident officials in southern Sudan will take the new country in the right direction.
They have the abilities and the capacity to lead the country to developing and also to a better future.
Monday's announcement has given southern Sudan international recognition. Organizations like the African Union, the Arab League and the European Union have given their support to the South and promised to develop the new country. But expectations here are high and building a new nation will not be easy. A lot of work needs to be concluded before Independence Day on the 9th of July. Issues including the disputed border region of IBA, citizenship, border demarcation and oil sharing are some of the challenges. As Southerners here celebrate the birth of a new nation, resolving outstanding issues will determine how peaceful the transition to independence will be. Harun Matasa, Al Jazeera, Juba, Southern Sudan.
Officials from North and South Korea have come together for the first dialogue between the two countries since September. The meeting will lay the groundwork for higher-level dialogue, possibly between ministers. South Korean delegates left for the border village of Panmunjom, where the military talks are being held. Tensions have been high on the Korean peninsula since the South accused the North of sinking its warship and killing 46 sailors last March. The call by the party of Myanmar's pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi for Western sanctions to remain in place will be a likely blow, not just to the ruling military, but also foreign firms wanting to invest there. Al Jazeera's special correspondent in Myanmar says the NLD's recommendation also risks further divisions within the opposition movement.
Well, since Aung San Suu Kyi was released last November, there seemed to be indications that the Nobel laureate and her party, the NLD, were considering supporting what has been seen as a widespread push for a lifting of sanctions. We heard suggestions of this in her many speeches, including at Davos just last week. However, it is clear now that the party is sticking to its position on the issue. It's being seen as a major blow to the other opposition groups that have been calling for sanctions to be lifted. Over the last few weeks, we've spoken to many of these leading opposition voices in the country, and the general consensus among them is that these sanctions have only hurt the poor and done little to curb the lifestyle of the ruling military-backed government. One of the clear examples of this is the capital of Naypyidaw, where military figures run and profit from some of the most luxurious hotels in the country. At the same time, the average per capita income for people here is less than $500 a year. And opposition voices point to this fact and say people are desperate for international factories to come into this country to provide desperately needed jobs. However, it is very much a catch-22 situation. Speaking to some of Aung San Suu Kyi's people over the last few days, they tell us the concern is that by opening the doors, Myanmar will follow the way of countries like Vietnam, where political rule is in fact strengthened by improving economics in a country and where corruption becomes further institutionalized. What other opposition groups, apart from the NLD, are calling for is targeted sanctions, more specifically geared towards a ban on such things as the sale of arms, perhaps a freezing of offshore bank accounts. On the sidelines of this debate, overall, is a general concern that Aung San Suu Kyi's position is further marginalizing herself and her party and dividing an opposition in this country that has grown increasingly fractious.
A former Philippine military chief and cabinet minister accused of massive corruptions died in an apparent suicide. Witnesses say that retired General Angelo Reyes died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. Reyes, who headed the military from 2001 to 2003, was recently accused of pocketing at least $1 million worth of military funds. He denied the accusations. A separatist leader says he ordered the suicide bombing that killed 36 people at Russia's busiest airport last month. Speaking in a video carried by an Islamist website, Doko Umarov described the attack on Moscow's Domodedovo airport on January the 24th as a special operation directed against the Russian people and their Prime Minister, Vladimir Putin. Neve Barker's in the Russian capital.
It's 2 weeks since the fatal bomb attack here at Domodedovo Airport. A bomb attack that exploited a key weakness in the airport's security, targeting perhaps the most vulnerable section of the airport, the arrivals hall. Well, since the bomb attack, airport security has only marginally improved. The investigatory body looking into the suicide bombing say that they have identified a 20-year-old individual from the troubled North Caucasus. The Federal Security Services, the FSB, say that they have arrested several, including some members of the suspected bomber's family. Meanwhile, the Kremlin's most wanted Islamist fighter, Doku Umarov, has appeared in a video. He has vowed a year of blood and